I'm going on Clarence Standard Time.
4 less questions today. So.
I didn't know he asked questions.
Well, thank you. I didn't want to say that.
Wow.
4 less opinions or statements.
Dave?
It's funny.
David Moore, Dallas Morning News. Mike, especially about James Washington, you probably won't tell us you're 53 until Saturday, but how has he progressed? Is he certainly at a point where you'll consider bringing him up for this game?
I would say this based off of Wednesday and Thursday's work. I think he's ready to go. Frankly, this is what really Friday's for. Any of the guys that were, in a concern level, we'll speak on them after the state program today. So, and then we'll set our practice tomorrow for how we feel the 48 is going to line up.
And in general, follow up on that with Tyron Smith. In the past, with guys who have been out, you liked him to get in one padded practice before coming back. Since you didn't have a padded practice this week, would you prefer to see that from him going forward?
Definitely. I mean, that's part of the plan. It really, Tyron just really needs the padded work and the individual work and just, combination blocks, reach blocks, and, those types of things. So, stretching the defensive end, pass protection one-on-ones. So, and then obviously get the cadence and the timing down. That's no different for any player.
Mike Toddarcher with ESPN. Bohanna popped up last week and didn't play. How's he doing this week? And you expect him?
Bo's having a much better week. I thought he had a good practice yesterday. He's put together 2 good practices. So, he looks like he's getting back to full strength. So he's having a good week.
Is it one of those things you monitor at this point in the season, like ease him in practice during or is it not?
He took his scheduled reps. So one of the things that I've been so impressed with our staff because it happens in games. But if you look at the probably last six weeks, we have really hit our projected numbers going into the game, which also is a challenge when you have a game like we did against Indianapolis because we had numbers get out of whack because we pulled some of the veteran players and just with all the special teams reps we had there in the fourth quarter, things got a little out of balance. But I think those types of things are important if you can stay in that realm because at the end of the day, we have to we have this game Sunday, then we have a 7-day stretch, going into Jacksonville, then it's a 6-day into Philadelphia, then a 5-day into Tennessee. So those are the kind of things I think about. But the players are always just focused on winning the next game.
Mike Drury, Epstein Yahoo Sports. I know you've answered so many adult questions this week.
How many?
Odell questions this week.
I think you said adult. I was like, thank you. Yeah, I was feeling mature for a second. Yeah.
But he had made comments that he, quote, doesn't see the point in playing in the regular season when the playoffs have more stakes. What goes through your head when you hear that in terms of the grind leading up to it, even if there is an injury concern?
I think like a lot of things. These guys are they're professional athletes. Obviously, their gifts, particularly as they move through their career. They have a feel on what they need and what they don't need. It's really I think you can talk about this. A lot closer to home with Tyron. How much does Tyron need to get ready to play? So it's about getting ready to play, and the challenge for us with any player that's not part of our program and hasn't been part of it in the past, you just don't really know how long it's going to take. So it's end of the day, our training regimen and plan has to make sure not only the individual's ready, but the connection with everybody else. Because end of the day, talent's very important, and we all get that. But that's really the starting point. Each team has a certain level of talent, but it's the connection of the talent is which gives you the opportunity to execute and play at a high level. So it's just definitely part of the natural formula.
Dave Loffenberg, Cowboys Radio. Mike, every team obviously talks about creating big plays on offense and stopping them on defense, but you guys defensively, I don't know how you talk about a big play, but 20-plus yard pass plays, you're by far the best in the league, and you're not a shell.
Yeah.
Keep everything in front of your team. So how do you, when you look at that, what's been the reason for that?
I would say we do a great job of emphasizing, and I think our team does an excellent job of not chasing big plays. That's something I've learned through quarterback development. You can't chase big plays because you get yourself in trouble more than the success that you'll achieve there. And the way we do the big plays, obviously the runs and the passes, but all the other things that affect the game. So obviously takeaways giveaways on the negative side of it. But if you watch in a game, it's amazing how consistent this is. I can't tell you how many times. Like last week, we were +9 and the Colts were +6. I mean, so my point is, there's 15 big plays a half. And that's always been pretty consistent. I mean, and that's the way we coach it. We coach big play opportunity as one of our 6 fundamentals of it's part of the Cowboys 6. We feel it's a fundamental. You look at the history of this league, you can't win in this league without big plays. I mean, that's just the facts of the matter. I think it speaks to the talent of this league. I think it speaks to the space of the rules changes, and so you have to treat it as an everyday, all day component of your training operation, and that's been our approach. And I think most importantly, beyond the approach, our players really see that. And I don't see us getting outside of ourselves very often, which is puts us in position to create a big play for the other guys. So big plays are so critical to success, but it amazes me how it usually falls right around 30 each and every game.
Michael Gilkin, Dallas Morning News. Anthony Barr this week was talking about how when he got here, he's had to learn to kind of buy into his role, whatever that may be, and it can at times mean fewer snaps than he had in Minnesota. What have you seen, just the way that he's acclimated and been selfless to kind of get accustomed to what it takes here to be successful?
Yeah, I don't know if Anthony Barr could do a better job than what he's doing here. I mean, in all seriousness, obviously have a ton of respect for competing against him for so many years. Him and Mike Zimmer and that crew in Minnesota. I mean, that was a well-orchestrated defense. And now to see him make the adjustment here, and just obviously for the amount of football he's played, we really have a certain number that we're trying to play him each and every week, and it's always happens. Because the number makes sense based off of his injury that he was coming off of, but then you get in the game and he obviously wants to keep going, and we want him to keep playing. And so that has been a really good balance for us because he's good with the young players. Doesn't say a whole lot, but when he does the old E.F. Hutton commercial, that's showing your age, babe. But I think he's that kind of guy. He's that type of player, but just a super smart, instinctive. Obviously, the skills that he has. His still his ability to rush. Matchups on running backs and things like that. But just a complete player. He's been an excellent addition for us.
Mike, some of your receivers talked yesterday about the importance of not thinking too much on some of these routes and how overthinking can complicate them.
Yeah.
How do you coach that? Because it almost seems like you want to get it out of them, but if you talk to them about not thinking, then it makes them think about it.
That's really what comes down to the mental and emotional and physical reps. I mean, everybody thinks that routes on there, then you're ready to go. That's not the case. I think when you get into route running, you got to know when you're the primary receiver. I mean, because everything about developing and designing a pass, there's a time clock. With the quarterback, and it's like, oh, that's a 5-step drop. But the 5-step drop on the drawings is for the perimeter guys. Trust me, the quarterback knows his timing. But my point is, they got to know when they're the primary receiver, because you got to. I mean, your release has to be on the money. Your stem has to be, in accordance with a primary route, and then your breaking point has to be at top speed, and because you're the primary receiver, and and there's certain plays that we have at least 2 primary receivers on it, because we classify it as an alert. Your primary versus particular coverage. The number one, we're throwing the ball to you no matter what, because those guys have to go. I mean, they got to go get their steps, or they got to go get their depth and so forth. But now when you're the number 2 or the number 3, you got to recognize. I mean, you got to be totally in tune with. You have to get your depth. You can't be short, right? Because we're not looking at you anyways right now. So look, it's those little things, and I hope we're not thinking about that. I hope we're past that. But that's when you see the pass game humming, and Dak's coming off of 1 and hitting 2, and they're right in strike. At the end of the day, this league is about not getting open. This league is about setting a stem, creating at the breaking point an angle for the quarterback to throw you open. So it's just those little things that you're always working to improve at. That's why the time with the quarterback for the perimeter plays is so critical.
With what Pollard's been able to do this year, is there any part of you that said, why didn't you do more of this last year with him?
No, I don't think so. I think it really goes back to what we always talk about. I mean, this is a long year. I mean, and that's why, I mean, we talked about it a month ago on the anniversary of Emmitt Smith. I mean, what a record to go that long and that hard as far as what he did to accomplish what he did. I mean, that's, it's because at the end of the day, I want Tony Pollard and Zeke to be playing their best football, when we're going into the playoffs. That's my goal. My goal and their goal is to win a championship. And that's why I just have such admiration for Zeke. He's won rushing titles. He knows what that's like, and he knows what it takes to get there. And I think Tony could be that type of guy too if we played that way. There's nothing wrong with playing that way, but it's just like anything in this league. You're trying to lower risk, and at the end of the day, you want to play your best football, and the best way to play your best football is having your players healthy as they possibly can at the end of the year. So that's really always been my thought process. But I get where you're going. I mean, I think you're in your analytics a bit too much today, Todd. But hey, we'll work with you. But and I think that's all part of it.
What's analytics?
Statistics, sorry, it was a little too heavy for you.
Christy Scales, Cowboys Radio, to that point about guys being healthy and at their best going in. To the point of Cavante Turpin in particular, because it's like 8 months he's been going without a break.
Great point.
Do you, and plus at that position, all the running that he does in practice, do you lower his threshold or have to be more mindful?
Well, we're watching him, and he's, and that's been going on for weeks. I mean, because, everybody talks about the rookie wall, but, I mean, there's definitely a USFL wall too. So, I mean, you have to be conscientious of that. So, and that's a great point, but we're definitely in tune with that.
But you haven't seen any effects with
No,
this?
and I think his workload reflects that too, so, because we do have things in for him more on offense. We just quite haven't gotten to him yet, so, which I like, because that's, more for what's in front of us. But in the same breath, just being conscientious of how much football he's played.
Mike, I know you addressed Baker Mayfield's performance some on radio this morning, but I'm curious, given
You listen to that?
What?
Wow.
I know.
Early bird gets the worm, huh?
Definitely not live.
Oh, not live? Oh. It's better live, I'm told, so.
But given how long you've been around this league, what's the least amount of time you've had to get a quarterback ready? And how would you have prepared him if you had 2 days?
I mean, I don't know if preseason counts, but I'm going to say 1995, somewhere in there. We had signed Todd Collins the day of the last preseason game. And Marty would say, hey, that's, hey, fine, let's just get him in there and have him go through pregame and just let him get the cadence down and so forth. And I'm trying to remember who we were playing. So we get into the game, and, Todd's dressed, and we get down to fourth quarter, and Marty says, hey, throw the new guy in there. And Paul Hackett's like, you can't put him in there. He doesn't know the cadence. He said, put him in there. This guy's started 50 games, a second-round pick, University of Michigan, so forth and so forth. And it so happens to be the drive to go win the game, And, we had a lot of super competitive guys, particularly on defense. And so the only play that we really talked about, the first play that you put in the old West Coast offense was 22Z hook. So we called it 3 times. And I think he threw it, if I remember correctly, I think he threw it to the wide route, the back on the wide route 3 times. And I can remember James Hastings, some defense guys, like, what are we doing? I mean, we've got to win the game. They wanted to win the game. And I was just, stand there. But that's, I don't know if preseason counts, but that was the quickest I've ever been a part of. So trying to
I think
get
you
a
were
guy
playing
ready.
the Vikings, according to the
Say it again?
The Vikings was
Wow,
your
that's good. That's impressive. What was the final score? 'Cause we had a chance.
17-13.
Yeah, see, we could have won the game. If the quarterback coach would have had him better prepared, we should have won the game. So that's I didn't do my job because Todd did a heck of a job. So.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.